Dope Discussions Podcast. Dope discussions, Gator, Erica, woke discussions. Mob ties, how they rock and think they both was cousins. Gifting you with their words so you might know you something. Just go and look for them live, they do it every Sunday. Every Sunday.
And we gon' bring you that dope.
And we gon' bring you that dope. It's Gator Beater, baby. Man, state to state, baby, coast to coast. Like the fire, baby, spark the joke.
And we gon' bring you that dope.
So talk with Erica, man, talk with G. And all you gotta do is talk with me.
And we gon' bring you that dope. And we gon' bring you that dope. And we gon' bring you that dope. And we gon' bring you that dope.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another Dope Discussion Sunday with your girl, Erica, and your boy.
Gator Beater, baby. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the virtual congregation. It's good seeing y'all on a good old Sunday. How y'all doing, man? How y'all doing?
Yes, today is going to be an awesome conversation. We have a dope guest backstage that we're going to be bringing out. Let's see who we got joining us. Hey, Derek. Hey, fam. How you doing? Thank you for joining us. Today is going to be a very important conversation.
Yes.
I especially reached out to this guest because I follow his platform on Instagram. He has such a great testimony. He has such a great attitude towards life. I'm so proud of him for being a young Black man, putting this type of message out because it's so needed in this day and time. Yes. And I'm so honored that he accepted the invitation to come join us today. So I want to bring him out really quickly. But before I do that, I also want to recognize another Black man that I love and that I appreciate. Today is Gator's birthday, y'all.
Oh, yeah, today is my birthday. That's right.
Happy birthday. And he was going to take off tonight and go celebrate his birthday. But when he found out who we were going to have on the show, he said, I'm want to be there for this show. I want to be there for this topic. I want to be there for this conversation. So I just wanted to do a little tribute to you right quick.
Look, I was about to get my stomp on.
Happy birthday, Gator, my brother from another mother and father.
Man, thank y'all. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Look, it is a blessing to be 44, man. We're going to get into the topic in a little bit, but I will say that as a Black man who went through similar scenarios, and I went through, the thoughts of suicide, and I went through the depression, and I went through those battles, and hey, I'm still here, still on top. 44 years, man, and I am thanking God every day for breathing that breath into my body. So thank you for the nice little birthday shout out, and thank all of y'all for tuning in. We appreciate it. So celebrate my birthday with me, everybody.
Yes, but without further ado, let's go ahead and bring out our special guest. How you doing, Kizzle? Welcome to the Dope Discussions platform.
Hey, Erica. Hey, Gator. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here, man. And Gator, happy birthday. I didn't even know it was your birthday, bro.
Oh man, you know what? I appreciate it, man, and it's an honor for us to have you here. That's why Erica was right when she was like, "Oh, I can find somebody to help co-host this episode." Then she said it was gonna be your episode this week, and I said, "Nah, it's all right. I'm gonna go ahead and make some time to, I'll let everybody else chill for a minute. We gonna make this happen."
Right.
Yes. So, welcome. I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers. Tell them who Kizzle is. Tell
Hmm.
them about Express Yourself Black Men.
Absolutely. So my name is Kizzle. I am the founder of Express Yourself Black Man. And Express Yourself Black Man is really just a platform for us as a Black community to come together and heal with a specific focus on Black men, of course. And so what I do is I lead with vulnerability. And what that means is essentially I talk about things that normally Black men shy away from. So like depression, mental health, relationships, suicidal ideations, dating, all of these different things. I talk about my perspective when dealing with these things, and I try to also offer solutions. So it's a lot of solution based thinking. So anytime an issue comes up or arises, I try to give my insight and then also offer solutions for us as Black men. So we're a community of over 55,000 people on IG, over
Mhm.
1,000 on TikTok and YouTube. We're starting something called a exclusive community, and what that's basically going to be is a subscription based community where we take a lot of the content, we categorize it, we have live podcast episodes, kind of similar to what you guys are doing here.
Mhm.
We're going to have low cost therapy, so Black men can get therapy at an affordable rate regardless of where they are. That's a part of a partnership that we're finalizing with the organization. We're going to have a medical concierge service. So what that basically is a service that takes care of scheduling doctor's appointments for Black men, telemedicine, getting them to and from their appointments, all that kind of stuff. So all of that will be included in the exclusive community. So like I
Oh,
said, the
wow.
whole point of the platform is to meet people where they are and offer what they need. And so I've been doing that on IG. I want to get a little bit better at it with this subscription based community, and then take those proceeds to then go and build out physical solutions for people in neighborhoods and stuff like that. So that's kind of like the 5 to 10 year plan, but that's what we do now, and that's what we're going in the future.
Man, I'm so proud of you, and that it takes, it takes some fortitude to step out on faith and do something like this on a big scale for other people.
Hmm.
It's 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 a difficult feat to actually go through your own process and become self-aware and realize that you need help yourself.
Hmm.
But once you've done that for yourself, it takes an even higher level of self-awareness and compassion and love for other people to do that on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
What was it that made you want to do this for other people, once you got on the other side of your healing?
That's a really good question. I don't think anybody's really ever asked me that. And I think the answer to that is that's just the kind of person that I've been raised to be.
Hmm.
Just from my parents and just the things that I've learned growing up with watching them. My mom is always the person to kind of and this is kind of good, or you can take it how you want to take it, but she always kinds of like she puts herself last in most situations. So I've always kind
Hmm.
of been that person.
Hmm.
With therapy, I've learned that I can't always do that, right?
Right,
But
right,
it's
right.
always been in the back of my mind, and that's kind of who I am as an individual. And so when I was going through depression and suicidal ideations, we can kind of get into that. When I was going through that, I remember thinking to myself towards the end of it, like, wow, there's no way I'm the only person that feels like this in the world, right?
Mm.
Like, and that's kind of what depression and suicidal ideations does to you. It kind of lies to you, right? You kind of feel like
Mhm.
there's no way like anybody else feels like this. I'm probably the only person that feels like this.
Yeah.
But after a while, I realized after talking to people and just like being vulnerable and explaining like what I was dealing with, I realized other people were dealing with the same things. And I knew how terrible I felt, right? And so I
Hmm.
was like, dang, if there's anything that I could do to make somebody else not feel this way or not have to deal with it not have it be as difficult as it was for me, then I'm going to do that, right? And so it started in 2017 with something called a Kizzle brand. So that was an organization that I started aimed at raising awareness for depression and helping people through difficult times. And then that transitioned into Express Yourself Black Man in
Yeah.
2020 after I went through my own breakup. My girlfriend cheated on me, pandemic, all that kind of stuff. So
Mm.
yeah. So that's how Express Yourself Black Man started. It started with a podcast and then grew into this huge community that you see on social media.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I appreciate your transparency on those issues because so many black men go through breakups and heartbreak,
Mm-hmm.
and their first go to is to suck it up and pretend like they're okay.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't a big deal. Like, I'm over that girl, or I'm gonna
Mhm.
go get another girl to replace her.
Yeah.
And all they're
Yeah.
doing is just prolonging their healing, or they're compounding the trauma,
Yeah.
because when you go into a relationship and you haven't healed from the previous one, you're just going to repeat that cycle, and you're going to add on more trauma to what you haven't already dealt with. um, what made you be that transparent? Because a lot of times when you're in a group of guys, if you're telling your friends that this girl broke my heart, and I'm really messed up over her,
Mm-hmm.
you would expect to be ridiculed, or you would expect your friends to be like, dude, you weak, or you acting
Right.
like a
Mhm.
punk over that girl.
Mm-hmm.
What made
Mhm.
you just, not be worried about that part of it and just be open and honest?
So it was two fronts. First of all, right, like I had to be open and honest privately with, well, I guess I'll say three fronts. Privately with myself about what happened and accept what actually happened, and so that happened with me just kind of self-reflecting and understanding what the situation was. That's when I got cheated on, right? So after I got cheated on, I went through my grief and like my anger and all that kind of stuff. And I had to really kind of come to a certain level of acceptance with it. And then also after that, so that's the first part of it. It was kind of coming to an agreement of like what it was for me.
Yeah.
Then it was kind of talking to the people around me. And the reason why I had to do that is because one, I felt like people are not going to see me with this person or talking about this person anymore. So I might as well just get it out and let everybody know what's going on, right? Because I don't want to have to,
Yeah.
every time I have a conversation, oh yeah, how's this person? I'm just like, yeah, bro, she ended up cheating on me. And 6 months down the line, we still having the same conversation over and over. So after I
Mhm.
got cheated on, to be honest, like within 2 weeks, everybody that was really close to me already knew, right? Like I already told
Right.
everybody, and we had conversations, and that was kind of me expressing myself. So express yourself, black man. That was me kind of expressing myself and having conversations with people around me about what happened. And so that second part of it was where I learned that it was okay for what I was going through, right? Like the people around me didn't really judge me, right? And that was a beautiful thing about it. Granted, regardless of if they judged me or not, like I felt like at that point I was comfortable enough with expressing it that it didn't really matter what people said to me, because I was going through my process of trying to heal and figure out what it meant to me to actually be cheated on and like what that looked like for me after. And so
Mm.
luckily enough, I didn't have people that were like, bro, just move on, go get another girl, blah, blah. Like, you have some guys that's kind of their
Mhm.
rhetoric. But for me,
Mhm.
that wasn't really helpful. So I won't sit here and lie and pretend like that's not what I did. Cause at first that's the route that I took. Like, oh yeah, you know what, man? Cause your pride and your ego is hit, right?
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
as a man getting cheated on, right? Your pride and your ego is hit. You start thinking to yourself, like, nah, man, nah, she was tripping. Like she's bugging.
Yeah.
Like I gotta see if I still got it, right? So now you're trying to talk to everybody
Right.
that you're trying to call up old flames, all these different things, right? And so I did go through that process, but what I realized after that, I did that like one time, and what I realized after was like, yo, this isn't fulfilling. This is not helping me, right? Like, and I still had an issue with like dealing with relationships with women because of my perspective and how I was going about them. So once I got through therapy and talking to other people about it and just getting different perspectives, it led to me just going online on my own social media. This was before Express Yourself Black Man started, and just talking about therapy and all these different things. So therapy was really the big proponent that made me feel comfortable with just talking about it, because my therapist made me realize like I'm a human being and human beings go through these experiences, and that I'm not the only black man that's been cheated on. And like, despite what
Mhm.
black men try to say and how they try to portray it, like
Yeah.
we go through these experiences, we go through relationship trauma, we go through trauma just in general, and we all kind of take it not necessarily the same way, but it bothers us and it affects us regardless of how we try to make it seem. And so once I realized that, I was like, okay, I don't need to front on social media. I don't need to front to my friends. I'm just gonna be transparent. I'm gonna lead with
Yeah.
vulnerability, and whoever can relate, and whoever can't, then it is what it is. But it starts with being comfortable with who you are first, and not really worrying
Mhm.
about what people say, because there's gonna
Yeah.
be people that have a lot of stuff to say about how you express yourself and what you're expressing yourself about, because they may be uncomfortable with certain aspects of themselves, and so
Mm.
you
Right.
have to
Right.
not let that get to you, and you have to allow people to be who they want to be while you continue to be who you want to be, right? And so I've learned to kind of like allow myself to be authentic in my expression and allow people to be authentic in how they want to perceive that expression. And sometimes it doesn't match, and that's okay.
Right. Now I gotta ask you, what was your jerk moment, your wake up moment? Because I know when I was going through my things, there was a moment where I wouldn't even call it rock bottom, but it was the moment where I said, you know what, I gotta go get help. I have
Hmm.
to go get therapy. Something this,
Hmm.
this cannot continue. Do you remember what your moment was that
Yeah.
really jerked you back? It was like, oh, I gotta get therapy.
Yeah, that's a great question. So 2017, I dealt with depression and suicidal ideations. So this was before I got cheated on. So this is like 3 years before I got cheated on, right? So in
Mhm.
2017, my wake up moment was really, I was on the couch crying. I was texting one of my friends, and I was like, "Yo, bro, I just don't want to be here anymore." And
Wow.
what I told her was, if God came down right now and He said, "Yo, you got a choice between staying here or going," I would have told him right then and there, like, "Yo, I'm ready to go. Like,
Wow.
what's up? Let's
Mm.
go." Right? Like, that's how serious I was about it. I wasn't planning how I would take my life, but I definitely was looking for an exit,
Yeah.
out of what I was experiencing. And so that's when I realized like I needed to craft my own exit, not in the way of taking my own life, but figuring out how to get out of this. And so that
Hmm.
was my wake up moment because I was like, "Yo, bro, you really don't want to be here anymore." Like
Yeah.
that's a
Right.
serious thing to say. I was like, "Yo, this ain't even you. This has never been you." Right? Like, and that's I had to
Right.
sit
Right.
down and have that conversation with myself. Like, this is not you. Right. And so once I realized that, I was like, okay, I need to do some things about it. I didn't get into therapy at that point because I didn't even know therapy was an option. And this is why I advocate so
Mm.
much for therapy, because there's so many black men that are dealing with all these different things that come from the neighborhoods that I come from and just the backgrounds that I come from that don't even hear about therapy when they're talking about things that make them depressed, right? Like they're talking
Yeah.
about being sad for 6 months and people are like, "Yo, bro, just pray about it or you be good, man. You're gonna
Right.
get through it." Like, bro, that person is basically telling you that they're depressed. Right. And
Yes.
we don't even go into, "Yo, bro, have you looked into a therapist?" We go into like, "Yo, you gonna be all right." Like, yo,
Yes.
Right.
he's telling you he's not all right right now. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like that, just because you think he's gonna be good doesn't mean that that person's gonna be good, right? And this is
Right.
how
Yes.
people end up taking their lives because they feel like they express themselves to people and they're not getting their necessary like help or solutions. So I always tell people like, "Yo, I'm gonna give y'all solutions. I'm gonna be vulnerable. I'm gonna let y'all know how I feel about certain things. But at the end of the day, Instagram ain't therapy, and my solutions ain't therapy. It's gonna work and it's gonna help, but you gotta get yourself into therapy and talk to somebody because that is what's gonna ultimately push you to where you need to go." So that was my first wake up call in 2017. My second wake up call in 2020 when I realized, okay, I definitely need to get into therapy was after I got cheated on. I was watching all this red pill content on YouTube, right? For
Mm.
those of y'all that
Mm.
don't know what red pill content is, it's
Mm.
basically all the people that you guys see on Instagram that have black men that have podcasts. Whenever they saying like anything that's like distasteful about black women or that kind of stuff, I lump all that stuff into red pill content, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was watching all this red pill content, right? I was like, dang, man, like this is how I gotta moving forward. Like, can't have these women taking advantage of me, man. This is how I get
Mhm.
cheated on. I gotta really play these girls and like, and that's where I was going. And I really
Yeah.
sat with myself. I've always been a one to self-reflect and be honest with myself. And that's what a lot of guys don't do. A lot of guys cap. They cap to the world
Right.
and they cap to themselves, right?
Yep.
They try to pretend like they're somebody that they're not. And I knew that that's not who I was. I was like, yo, I don't feel comfortable doing this, but I feel like I have to do this as a result of my hurt and my pain. I can't trust women because I've been cheated on. And once I came to that realization, I was like, okay, you have a problem with your approach to your relationships with women and you need to get into therapy. Most people won't do
Mhm.
that because it's easier to just blame it all on women and change your
Right.
approach to dealing with women than it is to go to therapy and deal with your childhood trauma and relationship trauma. It's much easier to
Mm.
just it's much easier to just say, "Oh, it's just that woman, and next time I'm just not going to do this with all women." And it's like, bro, that's not really the solution. The solution is making sure that you don't get to a point where you engulf yourself so much in a relationship that becomes your crutch for who you're for your identity, right? Like that's what a
Mm.
lot of black men do is like they put themselves in these relationships, and it's really our crutch for our identity. And so when we get hurt, it's like, damn, I can't believe it's like somebody stripped a piece of us away. Like, don't
Mm.
Yeah.
get me wrong, being cheated
Yeah.
on is always gonna be hurtful. That's always gonna be hurtful, but it shouldn't
Mhm.
change you to the point where you can't create relationships healthily with other people, where you feel like everybody's gonna cheat on you, where you feel like all women are a certain way. All of those kind of mindsets are a result of negative or maladaptive learned behaviors from trauma. right? And we don't identify these things because we don't do enough time. We don't take enough time to do the self-reflection to understand what's actually going on internally. And even if we do that self-reflection, a lot of us start lying to ourselves about what it actually is. And so that's when I was like, okay, you know what? Let me get in therapy. And I got a Black woman therapist, and she's my therapist to this day. I have a therapy appointment tomorrow. We're going to talk about some things that happened throughout the last 2 weeks. And it's been dope, man. And I implore, I encourage people to get in therapy and talk about these things, especially Black men, because we try to sit here in front all the time like we're not, upset about what's going on, but we really are.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm so amazed because it took me to get into my 40s to have that epiphany about the patterns and the behaviors and the mindsets that I was carrying into relationships. And I realized that it stemmed from childhood trauma that I brought into my very first relationship and then carried it over forward. And I I took myself out of the dating and relationship game for 5 years and did a lot of self-reflection and realized that it wasn't me, it wasn't the people I was in a relationship. They were a reflection of how I felt about myself. They were a reflection of what I thought relationships were supposed to be. I showed up in a way that made them react to me in a way that created a dynamic in every one of my relationships, but the outcome was the same. I didn't want the results that I was getting, but I didn't know any other way to approach relationships until I started to work on myself and I stopped pointing the finger at all of those men. And I started to do the self reflection and the self inner work. And that's when I realized that, I had a lot of stuff that I was dealing with internally that was getting me these outcomes. But it took me almost my 40s to get that.
Yeah.
So to hear you, have this much wisdom and insight and self awareness at your age, it's uplifting and it's inspiring to me that the next generation will get it a lot sooner than we did.
Yeah. All glory to God. Whenever somebody says anything about my wisdom, I always have to give all praise and glory to God. And the reason why I do that is because from a young age, I've been praying for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding.
Right.
And so I pray for that. I've been praying for that for as long as I, for like since college, even before college, in different ways. And so whenever somebody's talking about wisdom, I always have to give all glory to God. A lot of this isn't me.
Yeah.
This is God using me as a vessel to get his message and like the things that people need to hear out. So I appreciate it. I appreciate that for sure. But definitely all glory and all praise to God.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now we talk about your wisdom. We talk about what you mentioned earlier about self-evaluation. How you got that? How you kind of, like I said, you had that wake-up moment where it was like, "Oh, this is what I need to do." But you mentioned that you were texting a friend of yours and you were kind of kind of relaying some things. How important is your circle in that scenario? Because you did say you had self-evaluation, but did you have anybody kind of like, "Hey man, you need to possibly go out and maybe even get therapy," or "Hey man, something's going on, you need to take a look at it, you need some help"? Did you have anybody in your circle that was doing that, or was it literally just kind of fell on you to kind of make that first move? Was it one of those, "Oh, you're gonna be all right"? Because I know as a guy, when you talk to your guy friends, that's what they do.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think in 2017, I didn't really have that, right? But you also have to remember the climate that we were in 2017.
Right.
A lot of people weren't talking about therapy. Therapy has kind of come on heavily as a result of the pandemic and a little bit before that when we were dealing with all these like Black killings and all that kind of stuff. And so definitely the pandemic kind of catapulted the Black community into talking more about mental health and therapy, because that's when we started dealing with a lot of these issues. But in 2017, a lot of people I didn't have anybody tell me to go to therapy, or I don't remember anybody telling me to go to therapy. And so I had a good support system, but your support system is only as good as the work that they've done. And so what that means is I can support you through how I would deal with something, right?
Right.
And that's what I do on the page, right? I do that very well because I've gone to therapy and I've actually gone through the healing process. I know what it looks like for myself as a Black man. But oftentimes what you hear in our community is, "Oh, you got cheated on? man, you just need to go rebound, shorty,
Right.
and go, do
Right.
your thing. And once you do that, you be good, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Mhm.
how we measure ourselves up as men, is like based on how many women we could take down, our body count, all these different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I mean by your like, that's what I mean by your support system is only as good as the work that they've done. If someone hasn't been in therapy, if someone hasn't been doing a healing work, they're not going to tell you to meditate, to regulate
Right.
your
Right.
nervous
Right.
system and your anxiety and your stress. They're not going to tell you to journal, because that helps you to kind of get your thoughts out. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are the
Yeah.
things that you don't really hear in our circles, and these are the actual tools and the steps that you could take to really heal post like breakup, post depression, suicidal ideations, all these kind of things. You can kind of take these steps to meditate, to journal, that will really help you. So I had a support system. They weren't actively talking about therapy in 2017, but in 2020, once I got cheated on, we kind of started having a little bit more of those conversations. And so that's when I felt more comfortable doing it. And one of my friends actually was getting into therapy, and that's how I found my therapist, was through her giving me the actual resource to actually go there and actually look for like a therapist in a directory. So 2020, yes, 2017, no, but also it's just because of the climate that we were in. And now we're talking a lot more about mental health in the Black community, and it's a beautiful thing, and we need to continue to do that. So like, I think like the next step in our community is to have more Black men applying to be, psychologists, like applying
Yes.
for like bachelor's in psychology, and then going getting their
Mm-hmm.
master's and like their license in
Yeah.
psychology, right? Like, that's the next step. And that's, a lot of people don't understand that that's what a bag is. Like, that's where
Yeah.
a big bag is, especially if you know how to articulate yourself. Because what's going to happen on social media is, as these platforms grow, as Express Yourself Black Man grows, as all these other Black mental health platforms grow, people are going to be looking for other thought leaders in the space, right? Like, you can really count on your hand, at least I can, the amount of Black male like therapists that are on IG that actually have a platform. There's probably like around like maybe 10. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like, that's a very small percentage of people. And especially when you look at our demographic and how many Black
Yeah.
men there are, and how important it is to us to actually have these spaces to where we feel comfortable, where we feel seen and heard. Anybody that I feel like is interested in psychology should definitely be going to get their masters and get their license, and actually start creating platforms and solutions and stuff for our people, because that's where the bag is, man. Like, it's not only about money. Money is important. It's also about creating solutions. But I think if you have integrity and you're doing things with the right intentions, that you should get paid. And so
Oh yeah.
I'm going to be really pushing, like, once this exclusive community comes out and we have people come in and we do this healing and stuff, I'm going to be pushing to kind of get Black men into like getting their license and all that kind of stuff, and eventually like hopefully scholarships and those kind of things. So with more capital is going to be more giving back. That's always part of the mission.
Oh yeah.
Right. And the bag is a gift, man. That's really what it is. It ain't just the financial, it's the actual platform, and to be able to kind of uplift the community, because it does
Yeah.
start with us.
Yeah. So I have a question, and I've seen this before, and I've heard therapists say that it's a misconception, it's misinformation, but a lot of people have made the statement that when someone is thinking about committing suicide, or if they commit suicide, that it's a selfish act. It's an act that they didn't consider the impact that it would have on friends and family. And I just wanted you to give your perspective on when you were feeling suicidal. I I think people misconceive what that mindset is and what you're
Right.
really going through.
Right.
And
Right.
they're
Right.
just looking at it from their perspective. They're not
Mhm.
inside the mind of a person who's feeling that way. Can
Absolutely.
you kind of give us some insight on what that is and what you were going through?
Well, the first thing I'll say is, saying suicide is a selfish act is actually selfish in itself, if you actually think about it, right? Because what you
Right.
think about is yourself in that moment. I can't believe that this person decided to end their life and didn't think
Yes.
about me.
Yes.
That in itself is rooted in selfishness, like
Yes.
thinking about yourself. So I want to point that out right there. I also don't think suicide is a selfish act at all. I think suicide is an escape for what people are dealing with. When we talk about me and my suicidal ideations, the reason why I was having suicidal ideations is because I wanted to find an exit. The
Yeah.
pain was so much, that emotional pain on a day-to-day basis. People don't understand what it is to deal with that emotional pain on a day-to-day basis. I mean, you waking up, you could have the best day, everything could be going right, birds could be chirping, get your mail, you got a check in the mail, $10,000, your car is fixed, everything is good, but you just can't escape the emotional pain that you're dealing with. And regardless of how many things are going right in your life, you always feel like it's not enough. And so that's where it becomes, okay, I need to escape this by any means necessary. And so suicide becomes the option because people don't have other tools, especially in our community. So it's not that it's a selfish thing. It's just that it seems like the only option or the best option available to end that emotional pain. And people don't go straight into, I'm going to kill myself. People go straight into, okay, how can I deal with this? A lot of people reach out. A lot of people reach out. A lot of people are looking for help. A lot of people are looking for tools and tips and resources and all these different things, but they just can't find it. And like we talked about, your support system is only as good as the work that they've done, right? And so for reaching out to your support system hasn't done any work, doesn't know anything about healing, doesn't know how to really advise you on these processes. How are you going to go and do the work on your own? Like, it takes a very strong individual to then go and take themselves from suicidal ideations to getting into therapy and finding the right therapist. It's a lot of energy to find therapists, right? Like, so I don't think people understand the amount of work that it takes for people that are having suicidal ideations to get to a point where they feel comfortable with their mental health. I think we definitely take that for granted because a lot of people haven't really experienced depression and suicidal ideation, so they don't know what that feels like. Really, suicide is an exit for people that don't have the tools and the tips and the techniques to really deal with their emotional pain properly. And so that's why it's important for us to inform ourselves so that we can be able to help these individuals and also check in with people on a regular cadence.
Yeah, that was actually my next thing. You mentioned checking on people regularly. As someone who, may witness, a friend or a loved one that might be having a hard time. Maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be trauma. How can you recognize the signs of, hey, this person may be going through a little something? And how do you even approach them to maybe even try to get help?
So signs aren't hard to recognize, and it's different for everybody, right? So I always look for a difference in behavior, right? And a difference in behavior can be anything. And so you have to pay attention to people's behavior more than what they say, because we're always going to say, oh, I'm fine, I'm good, bro.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But if I always hear from you every week and I haven't heard from you in 4 weeks, I know you're not fine. Something's going on. Right? That's the difference in behavior. Right. And so we have to pay attention to people's behavior more than what they say. And the way that you can kind of help somebody through that is you can send a text, right? You can always send a text, but we always gonna say, I'm good. Show up, pop up, man. Take some time, bro. Like, take some time out of your schedule. Like, I have a busy schedule, but I'm always gonna make time for people that I know are going through things, right? Like, I know one of my friends is going through something right now. Like his grandma just died, and I know that was somebody that was very dear to him. And we send a text and make sure that he's good, and we laugh and we send memes and all that kind of stuff. But it's nothing more important than popping up on that person, right? And so I'm not physically there to be able to do that right now. But when I get back to New York, I'm gonna make sure I do that, right? Like, it's important that we do these things, that we physically show our presence, because energy is felt, right? Especially when you're there with somebody. So I think that's one of the best ways that you can kind of show up for somebody that needs you, is to pop up and just be there, right? And you don't gotta sit there and be their therapist, right? Like, you don't have to give them advice. Sometimes people just need an ear to vent to. Everybody got to eat, right? Sometimes take that person out, buy them food. Like, that's something that I do regularly. Like, if somebody just lost someone, I'm like, all right, cool, let me get you some food, man. Like, what's up? Well, you gotta eat today, right? Let me pay for your dinner, right? Like, these are ways we can actually take action to help someone, and it may seem very small, but that's something that that person won't forget, right? And it's a way that you can show up and support without having to feel like, without you feeling like you don't know what to do, right? Like, pay for that person's dinner. Like, that's a very small thing, but it allows you to be there and be in their space and check in on them physically.
Yeah. So you said that you were like the first person in your circle to consider therapy and actually go to therapy. So how receptive or how resistant was your circle of friends to that idea of you doing it and then possibly speaking to them about maybe considering it for themselves?
You know what's interesting? I have an interesting I have a very open circle of friends, right? And so I have different friends for different things.
Okay.
And one of the groups of my friends that I was talking to about it, like some of the people in that, well, at least I think one of the people in that group I was already in therapy.
Okay.
So it wasn't like this, yo, you going to therapy? Whoa. Kind
Yeah.
of, it wasn't really that
Right,
because
right, right.
one person was already in it. Also another group of my friends that, I was talking to about it, another person was in it. Like I talked about my friend that helped me with it. Like she was already in therapy, so she gave me the resources. And
Okay.
so she was in another group. So I didn't really have that like, oh wow, you're in therapy? Whoa. Like I didn't really have that. Actually, one of the groups that I was in, we had made a pact that we were all supposed to see a therapist. Whether everybody did that or not,
Yeah.
this was a push that we all kind of made. Like, yo, we all gonna see a therapist, especially after I went through my breakup and getting cheated on.
Mhm.
That was a challenge that we all did. And so I understand it. I understand people having friends that aren't really comfortable with them, going to therapy and talking about these things. But you got to understand that this is your life, right? And this is
Mhm.
how um, you have to live with the decisions that you make. So regardless of what anybody else says, you have to be comfortable with your life, with the decisions that you make. And if you feel like going to therapy is going to help you to make better decisions in your life and to be a better individual, it does not matter what anybody says. You should go and do that. And so I really wholeheartedly believe that. And so regardless of what anybody was going to say to me about it, I was going to do it. I'm very headstrong when it comes to certain things that I believe in. Um, and so it didn't really matter what anybody was going to say, but that comes with a certain level of comfortability and confidence in yourself. And a lot of us try to front like we have that, but a lot of us don't have that, right? And so you have to get real about who you are as an individual and where you want to be. And if you feel like therapy matches and aligns with what you want to do in your life, then you should go regardless of what anybody has to say.
Yeah. So how important is that for you dating or being in a relationship for your
Yeah.
partner to be
Mhm.
in therapy or
Yeah.
um
Luckily, I have a really supportive partner, and she's in, she does her own things, and we've done couple therapy. She's definitely been in individual therapy, right? And the kind of, it's important for me, but at the same time, it's not something that I'm gonna force on my partner, right? Like it's something that we
right.
talk about. But at the end of the day, she has to make her own decision. I implore all of us as Black men to stop trying to force people that we're in relationships with to do things, right? Like
Right,
we try to, we try to craft and carve
right.
and train and all these different
Mm,
crazy, I'm like, yo, stop trying to train your partner into who you want them to be, man. Like they're gonna
Yes.
come to you as who they are, and it's up to you to
right.
accept them for who they are or not. It's not your job to train them. This is not a pet. I'm like we treat our partners like dogs
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, man. Like not in a really
Ooh.
bad
That's
way,
true.
but like we really look at having a partner like a pet. And it's, yo, this is not your dog, bro. This is a human being. Your job is not to be their father. Your job is to be their partner. They're equal. And if you guys have
Mm.
issues in a relationship and you feel like therapy would be a really good solution, whether it be individual therapy or couples therapy, you have that conversation. You don't force it on them. Just like any other thing. If you guys are having problems and you feel like that person isn't cooking enough, right? This is a
Mm-hmm.
conversation. Then you see how they behave, and their behavior should dictate how you respond. Not in a way where you try to force them to do that thing, but if you express how you feel about something and that person isn't doing it, and you told them that it's something that you want them to do, then now you have a choice to make, right? Is whether do you still want to be in that relationship, or can you deal with that, or do you want to dip? And like I said, a lot of
Yeah.
us wrap our identity around being in a relationship, so we try to force these things
Ooh.
to work,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when they're not working, it's like, okay, I got to train her. She's not doing what she needs to do, blah, blah, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, no, bro, you need to work on yourself. Do you want to deal with this? If not, then why are you here?
Right,
Ooh.
right.
Preach.
It's really that simple. And we get into
Yeah.
all these relationship issues. My girl ain't doing this, my man ain't doing this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, bro, okay, they not doing this. You've expressed it.
Mm-hmm.
Now what? You
Now
Right,
gonna keep
what?
having the same
right.
conversation over and over? And don't get me wrong, I've been that person. I did that for 2 years. I know what it's like to have the same conversation over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all not getting nowhere. Y'all have had the same argument for almost a year and some change now. What are y'all doing?
Right.
Ooh.
Can we please come to some kind of agreement or agree to disagree? And if we can't do that, then what are y'all doing?
Right.
What are y'all doing? Because
Wasting time.
time, more than wasting time. Like people will
Exactly.
sit and see all of these red flags and try to make it work because we've been taught that we have to make these things work. Women got a biological clock. Men don't feel comfortable until they wear a relationship with a beautiful woman. And so we come into these relationships with all these things that are forcing us to feel like we have to be in these relationships. It has to work. I remember I was in college before I graduated. I was like 21. And I was thinking to myself, bro, I gotta find my wife in college, because if I don't find my wife in college, I'm never gonna find my wife, because I don't like going out to clubs and stuff. So I'm never gonna be able to, you know what I'm saying? Like I had all of this
Right.
at 21.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And this is a lot of men, and we don't talk about these things, man. Like we sit and pretend like this is not pressure for us, but it is also pressure for us to find our woman or find our man, right? And so we don't talk about this enough, and then it leads to us making all these decisions in our relationships and ignoring all these red flags and getting cheated on and you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's because we have this underlying belief that we are not enough until we are with someone, and then once we're with someone, that makes us enough. So if you feel like things aren't working in your relationship, and you think therapy is gonna help, definitely have that conversation. But if your partner is not into doing therapy, then you have a decision to make, just like with any other thing that you may think is important. If your partner is not with it, then you have a decision to make, right? So you can't force your partner to do things. All you can do is control what you can control, and all you can control is you. Everything else, you have to leave it up to God and whoever else that you believe in, or the universe, or whatever the case may be. But please, as Black men, we have to stop trying to control the uncontrollable.
Exactly.
That's what we try to do, man. That's why you see all these men talking about, I want to control my wife and all these different things, man.
I'm a big proponent of red flags turning into checkered flags, man. Like when it gets to that point, you see a red flag. You know what? It's over, and we have to learn how to walk away from those particular scenarios. If you know that it's no good, why are you going to continue to put yourself through it? Because it's not going to be mentally healthy for you to continue to carry a weight that you don't need to have on your shoulders.
I love that, man. Red flags and the checker flags. I may have to take that one, man. I ain't gonna lie. I may have to use that one. I'm gonna quote you though. I'm definitely say, yo, Gator told me this, but I'm definitely probably have to use that one for sure.
Yes. Well, look, y'all, this has been an awesome conversation. Dope guests as usual. Thank you everybody in the audience, in the comments, for joining us, for tuning in, for adding your insight, your conversation. Before we wrap it up, I just want to give Kizzle the floor. Tell us again where we can connect with you, where we can follow you, where we can subscribe to, your your community and all the things that you have coming up.
Absolutely. So you guys can follow me at Express Yourself Black Man on all social media. So we have a YouTube channel with all the podcast episodes and also other videos that I do on, like viral videos that I see in the Black community. And I try to give my insight. That YouTube is Express Yourself Black Man. We have the IG with over 55,000 people in the community. That's also Express Yourself Black Man. We also have the podcast. It's called Express Yourself Black Man, with over 45 episodes talking about mental health, dating, relationships, suicidal ideations, vulnerability, all these different things. We have men, we have women, we have gay men, like we have therapists, we have all these different conversations because it's important to have these conversations in our community. So that podcast is available on all podcast streaming platforms. It's also available on YouTube. As far as the exclusive community, we're going to have low-cost therapy. We're going to have categorized content. So if you're looking for dating content, if you're looking for relationships content, you're looking for mental health content, fitness, credit, all that kind of stuff. We're going to have not only mental health and relationships and dating, we're going to have other people from the Black community, Black men, Black women, come in and curate their own content as well in their own categories. So it's going to expand a lot. Those are just the topics that I'm thinking about right now. That exclusive community is also going to have low-cost therapy. And what I mean by low cost is $50 or less for whoever's in that community. We'll also have a medical concierge service. So Black men will be able to just request for a doctor in their area, and then that service will take care of scheduling an appointment, getting them to that doctor's appointment, all that kind of stuff. So that also be included in the membership. If you're interested in that, you want early access, we have not launched it yet. We're probably going to launch it in the next 1 to 2 months. If you want early access, you can go to expressyourselfblackman.com/therapy and just fill out the form on the first section of that site. It's also linked in our bio. It's the first link in our bio. it says register for early access to the exclusive community. So that is the exclusive community. We also have therapy that we're offering. Not necessarily we offering it, but we have like a whole guide that I've broken down on the website. It's also on expressyourselfblackman.com/therapy. So if you go on that link and you fill out the form and you keep scrolling, you'll see an entire list of directories and resources and all that kind of stuff. Also have the Hurt and the Healing ebook. And so that ebook covers depression, suicidal ideations, breakups, attachment styles, anxiety. It has 4 different chapters with those different topics, and I split those chapters into 2 sections. One section is me telling my story and what I experienced, and then the other section is how I healed. So it gives a guide and steps and all that kind of stuff and resources. So that book is also linked in my Instagram bio. It's called From Hurting to Healing: A Black Man's Guide to Feeling. So we have a lot of stuff. I'm sure I missed something else. It's a lot of stuff, right? The whole point of the platform is to be a solution instead of creating more problems in our community. So I appreciate you guys having me for sure, man. This is dope what you guys got going on. Dope. That wasn't a pun, but you know, it's definitely
we'll take it.
We'll take it. Thank you so much for coming on. Guys out there, I implore you, Black men of all ages, please, it's scrolling on the bottom of the screen. Go and follow him on Instagram. Go ahead and subscribe to his YouTube channel. You will not be disappointed. We need these conversations in the Black community, among Black men especially, because y'all are the leaders of our community. We need y'all to be happy and healthy so that the community can get stronger. And I just want to send a shout out to your parents, Kizzle. They did an awesome job.
Absolutely.
You're a great young man.
And my therapist.
And your therapist.
Yeah.
and I'm very proud of the work that you're doing. Gator, you wanna give us anything to close out with?
No, I just want to second that emotion, and it's great having you here, man. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you got coming next, man. I'm not gonna lie, the exclusive community concept, I can't wait till it launches. That sounds like that's gonna be dope, dude.
Absolutely, bro. I appreciate that, man. Thank you, Gator. Again, happy birthday, Erica. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Good night, everybody. Until next time.
Peace out.
All right. See you guys.